right, let's talk about The Last of Us season finale. Joel and Ellie have reached their destination. They're about to harvest cells from her. We learned that Ellie, in the act of childbirth, was basically infected, and because of that, she is resistant to the fungus creatures, the spore monsters, whatever you want to call them. I like that they're a variation on zombies, and they reach their destination. And Firefly is about to uh, have Ellie undergo a procedure that will harvest these cells, which could, I say could, lead to a cure for humanity. Unfortunately, this operation, and by the way, I should say right off the top, big spoilers here for The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I mean, look, if you've played the video game, you already know all this. If you haven't played the video game, this was new to me, but I kind of could see it coming. Um, they're going to harvest material from Ellie that could lead to a vaccine or a cure for uh, for the affliction, right? But this procedure will kill her. And Ellie is undergoing the procedure, which leads to Joel. Joel is not very much of he's not a guy that trusts people much. Okay. And he turns on Firefly, rescues his dear Ellie, which is effectively his surrogate daughter. And they go off to what one would presume would be further adventures. Okay. That's the crux of it. I'll say this. Here's what I'll say about it. And look, for some of you, it's been a mixed bag on The Last of Us. I've actually enjoyed it. I think part of the reason is twofold. One, I didn't play the video game first. I'm still about 3-4 hours in. I'll pick it up. But the differences I've heard between the game and the show, I get it. I get if you play, it's almost like your first imprint of something. You play the game first, you're going to be predisposed to like the game more than the show, right? But I like Pedro Pascal. Ellie grew on me, but it really was only within the last few episodes. I will say that those middle episodes were rough. I found her to be grating and annoying. I actually almost wonder if that's by design because I really did not like her character. And then I warmed up to her towards the end because I feel like she finally became humble. She warmed up to finally respecting Joel. They had this very contentious relationship that turned to one of affection. I don't mean any inappropriate affection, folks. And it worked for
father and daughter affection.
Father-daughter, feelings. And here's what I liked about it. I felt that this season finale was satisfying. I don't need a season 2. Wherever they go off in the world, I'm cool with it. I don't need to know what happens. The story of her being this the one who could cure everyone because of her unique circumstances of her birth, that story's done. The story is done. And I feel for me, the story is done. I don't know that we need a season 2 of this. If it goes in the direction of the game, I think people are going to really be turned off because Pedro Pascal is the true, hero of this, right? And you could look on it two ways. You could look on. I've seen some other people comment that Joel is actually wrong, that he should have allowed Ellie to go through this process, become the possible savior for humanity, and he basically gave into his own selfish desires to have a daughter back, and then he went wild on the Fireflies. So for me, this is satisfying. I don't need to see more. What I really liked about this season, because I watched The Walking Dead for 5-6 seasons. I got tired of that show. There are episodes of The Last of Us that would have been an entire season in The Walking Dead. There's the episode just a couple episodes ago with the people who
the town folk, yeah,
the cannibals with the charismatic leader. That would, if this was Walking Dead, they would have dragged it out for a season. And so a lot of the conflicts that occurred in The Last of Us, what I liked was how quickly the story moved. Even the Bill and Frank episode, yes, it came a little early in the season. I wish they'd saved it. It's weird. I'm saying I wish they had dragged out this story, but it's really like it's 10 episodes. Has a satisfying ending. I don't care about season two. I don't know what that tells you. I feel like the emotional, like the emotional and character arcs that needed to play out with Ellie and Joel, those are resolved. Right? He chose Ellie. He chose his daughter over humanity. And I think it comes back to the first episode when there was a moment where Joel kind of hesitated. He could have taken out that soldier because he saw what they were doing. He kind of trusted in them, and the trust was broken. The US government basically killed his daughter, was responsible for her death in the first episode. He wasn't going to see a repeat of that. He wasn't going to let Ellie go. So I feel like the character arcs were resolved. I feel like they sort of visited pieces of humanity. I think there would be crazy despots, charismatic leaders, and religious fanatics and people that are preppers. Like Ellie and Joel got to experience sort of all types of like where humanity's at. So I don't care what happens in season two. It's, to me, the story is told and it's done. And based on what I know from season two, I probably wouldn't like it. But I actually was very impressed and surprised how much I enjoyed this episode, even the ones where they diverted to talk more about other characters. So, and again, with any good quote zombie movie, the monsters are just a catalyst for a morality tale. And because it's more about the choices that the human characters make. The human characters are making choices in the show, and they're forced to make moral choices. Who do I save? Who do I not save? Do I trust this person? Do I not trust this person? Do I have to murder this other human being to save my own life or someone I care about? Like, zombie movies are always about those kind of big choices and decisions people are forced to make that are horrible to imagine. Horrible to imagine yourself in that situation. And you would imagine yourself that I would do the right thing, the good thing. Sometimes the right thing is not necessarily to do sometimes there's decisions that need to be made that you don't want to be put in a position to make those decisions, but you have to. And that's what I love about any sort of zombie fiction, whether it's George Romero films or Return of the Living Dead, which is more comedic, or The Walking Dead, which I loved, but I never finished it. And after, I tell you exactly when I checked out. When they killed Coral, remember Coral? Coral. Carl is Rick's son. When Carl got, for no reason whatsoever, except for the fact that he was basically a little kid when the show started and grew up on the show to look like he looked like Timothy Chalamet at the end. He was this like older kid. And most of the characters are getting written out because they were just tired of working on the show. They were working in 100-degree like Atlanta heat. And yes, first of all, more power to all the people that were involved in the making of The Walking Dead. But I felt that many of the conflicts and many of the storylines were dragged out, and it felt too much like a soap opera and not the best parts. I feel like what The Last of Us did, it's the best parts of a zombie movie, and it's a 10-hour story, effectively like a 10-hour one story that is fantastic. So I would grade it very high, B plus or A minus for me. Right up there, solid B for sure. But I enjoyed it. I want to hear your thoughts. Let's pivot to
Yeah.
your
By the way,
thoughts.
the background here. Sorry, I think that's me. The
Coral.
background there is that's the last episode I saw. The mall date, so to
Yeah, that
speak.
was a
Did I miss
couple
two
episodes.
episodes?
Yeah,
Is
you
that
missed the
supposed to be?
last two episodes, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, that was the
Because
mall date. The mall date that goes wrong, by the way,
yeah,
for other
and then
reasons.
and then I guess I read what Rainn Wilson said about the next episode, the cannibal episode. But I don't know, this show. I think fundamentally it was pretty good, but I always felt like I don't know, they were trying to push things that they weren't saying they were trying to push, and um, I
I thought it,
You
you know
know,
what, Alan, honestly, I thought it was fine. Like, I
mhm.
don't, here's what I like. I don't know. You're alluding to something. I'll just say this.
Yeah.
I think that the characters of Bill and Frank, because we have seen gay characters handled terribly.
Mhm.
Everything Disney. Everything Disney. Disney basically does the gay version of blackface whenever they do um, characters that are gay. I think it's so cliche. They lean into stereotypes. And what I liked about the gay characters we met in The Last of Us is the the first characteristic isn't that they're gay. They have other
Mhm.
characteristics that make them a person who
Yeah, but
happens to be gay. They're not defined by being a lesbian or homosexual. That's
yeah,
irrelevant. They
but
have other
but I
character
get that.
attributes.
I
More,
get
more
that.
important.
My biggest issue is it was a one and done episode. They just present
Right.
them, they kill them off, and it's gone. As opposed to, you know, I get they're following the game, but these were two such strong characters, to have seen them kind of bleed into other episodes, and the whole point of that episode was they got the car battery. The whole point of the mall date was to show that she was immune. It's like this big story to only touch upon one aspect of the overall story, and that's I think that's why I felt like the storytelling in this show up until what I've seen has been somewhat clunky in the sense of, it's like what were the stakes out? What were the stakes? That first one, car battery. This one, we discover why she's immune,
Yeah.
and it just felt like, you just kind of wasted my time and trying to, you know. So I'll see the other two and we'll see how it goes. But
Right.
I don't know. I'm just not as up. It's compared to what's out there currently in television. It's definitely better
Well,
than most.
I just remembered how frustrated I was watching The Walking Dead, and I had read the
Hmm.
comic book. Like, I would get those
Yeah.
collected hardback versions of The Walking Dead. I would just like read those relentlessly. It was so great. The comic was in
Hmm.
black and white, and the storytelling was so fantastic, so drama filled. I could not get enough of the comic book. And then I sort of read up until like the governor, and then the TV series started, and
Hmm.
I thought the TV series was great, and it really began to drag towards the end.
Yeah.
After they killed Glenn, one of the great characters, they could have
Hmm.
gone differently because what the creator, what is his name? Robert Workman was the
Kirkman.
Kurt Workman. Robert Kirkman said that like the comic book and the TV show will be different. I liked that because then it added some surprise. But
But then
yeah,
it didn't. It became the comic book. Yeah,
exactly.
no, I gave up on Walking Dead same time you did when they killed Glenn the first time.
Glenn,
Um,
and then the Glenn the second time, and then
yeah,
and
no,
then
I quit after the first one. No, but my point there is it just became the cycle of, here's some great characters, you're gonna fall in love with them, and then we're gonna kill them, and it just continued that cycle over again. It was like, I'm tired of this.
yeah,
I've seen too many of my favorite characters dying in this show.
it got tiresome, and so I just looking back and just remembering my experience with Walking Dead, which was so frustrating. Last of Us, I thought was satisfying. Let's go to comments.